Your body is reacting to what it thinks it's not capable of. That is all discomfort is.
Understanding that when you are being called to this path and doing things from a soul-led place, it's really a challenge to just freaking hold the vision and believe in it.
Yeah. When you are like done taking the action or doing something that you're like, damn, that was intense, you have to ground even more in that moment.
These things are working to make you a master of your reality, and it's not at all happening to you. It's literally for you.
Seed has been planted.
Seed has been planted.
So often we're thinking that something outside of us is going to like expand us. But when you turn your attention inward, you just naturally start to expand into actions that are beyond what your mind thinks you're capable of.
There's so much energy up here that you like forget a key piece of this reality that then you are almost too far removed from it.
Yes. When you have an idea, it literally gets uncomfortable to not express it because that's an energy that you're holding inside of you.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I have a feeling it's going to make so many things click for people and honestly for me.
Yeah, it has to be like a little bit more peaked, like bonjour Nicole.
And then she goes, bonjour Inspector, how are you settling into Paris? He's like, good, but I'm lonely.
Inside jokes. No.
Inside jokes. For people wondering, well, if you get that reference, do tell, because you will have become, honestly, you will have reached godlike status in my mind, because I'm referencing the Pink Panther, which is one of my favorite movies, most favorite movies of all time. It's one of those movies that my siblings and I latched onto years ago, and the references do not stop. Like, they're basically a daily occurrence, especially when we're together. And I showed it to Nikki, and she actually stayed awake and paid attention throughout the whole movie, which was a miracle truly. And now we reference it, and there's a part where it's like they're like American, they're like talking in English but in French accents in a French-based movie, which is
Makes no
so
sense.
ridiculous. It makes no sense. So anyway, there's like this inspector guy played by Steve Martin, and he says hello to his assistant. He goes, bonjour Nicole. And I was like, oh my God, I can use that one now with you because your full name is Nicole. So anyways, that took place last week during our IRL week in Sedona, and I'm having withdrawals of not being with you. Like, so sad. As I was boarding my flight, I was like, last chance, should I miss it? Like, check him back.
I literally read that text and was like, she's serious.
No, I would. I literally, if you were like, honestly, yes, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Isn't it funny how
Come
we
and get
keep
me.
making the trips longer and longer, and we're like, okay, at first it was like, okay, 4 days isn't enough. Okay, 5 days isn't enough. 7 days isn't enough.
Yeah, I'm like, we're gonna get to the point of like
1
we
month.
need like an ex.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need a new residence where we live together.
The OOOMIE pod residence.
Yeah,
Actually,
the IRL oasis.
not a bad idea. In-person oasis. Not a bad. Seed has been planted.
Seed has been planted. So yeah, anyways, we are coming off of such, I don't even know how to describe it, incredible week. It was a true trip. Like, we feel like we went just to the realms beyond space and time. And
I feel like I did ayahuasca. No, like, seriously. I'm not even kidding.
no, I know. I feel you. Like, we've been realizing how much we need to like ground and freaking stabilize ourselves, which is actually something we're going to talk about today, because we realized how much of that week we were spending in like the unseen and in like the crown and third eye and all the things that it can be a lot for your body, and you can easily start to feel literally ungrounded. And we were realizing how important it is to do the work of like bringing your physical body along because the thing about Sedona, actually, why don't you explain the magic of just Sedona and like its energy and how it sort of played out for us?
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, Sedona is an energy vortex, which I'm not even going to try to explain this because, to be honest, I don't know like the scientific details about it, but I will just say that there are scientific details that prove that it is an energy vortex where energy is swirling almost in like a tornado like shape and spiral. Spiral. That's the word I'm looking for. And it's a really intense energy. So when people come here, they will call it like a very healing energy because it will either like shake you up to the point where you like are face to face with shadows that you just like can't ignore. So that's why it makes it like a good healing portal. Or if you're in like a higher state, it will just bring you even higher. And it's like the downloads come faster, the realizations come faster. It's like things happen at a quicker pace here. And people will come here for these like healing experiences, kind of like Joshua Tree, but Joshua Tree is a negative energy vortex and Sedona is a positive energy vortex, which I'm not sure what the meaning of that is. Of course, you can just assume that it would mean like the direction of the energy and the way that the energy interacts with the land. And it's so crazy because you can actually see the way that trees grow in spirals to symbolize the energy of the unseen and the spirals that are happening in just like the energetic fields. So it's a very sacred place. The land is very sacred. There's just like a lot of indigenous cultures that are still living here and are still alive and well. And like you can go on tours where like a native will take you on the land and send you into like different energy vortexes and do like healings. And it's just such a beautiful place. There is such an incredible community of like conscious individuals here. And you can really get a taste of whatever the heck you want here. Like there's psychics everywhere. There's beautiful hikes that you can go on where you can visit the energy vortexes. There's a crystal shop on every single corner. And I live 20 minutes from this area. So when Bella and I decided to do a trip here, we knew it was going to be like a very spiritual experience for us, but we did not know what direction we would get taken. And I even said when I picked you up in Phoenix, I'm like, we don't have a plan for this trip. And I feel like it's for a reason because there's something that's going to want to come through us during this week that we're just not even aware of right now. And that's exactly what happened. There was a lot of healing, which happens when the two of us hang out because we're these just like divine mirrors for each other where we're picking up shadows based off of like either being like triggered by what someone else is doing or like then we are just very open about it and are able to transmute stuff like at rapid speed. And there was a lot of that, but there was also a lot of like connecting in with this higher energy that pulled us into like this really elevated state of consciousness where we were getting these insane downloads, insane realizations. And something about that Sedona energy vortex, it just literally makes you feel like you're tripping on a psychedelic when you're just sober. It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the energy that we were dealing with. Now let's drop you into a little bit more detail on what the experience was like. And we can share a bit of like the downloads and realizations we had because there were a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, the first one that's coming to mind is I think what was cool is we were in so many conversations about reflecting to each other, just giving almost like credit and airtime to this idea of how powerful it has been that me and you have held the vision of what we've been creating, especially when the results and the evidence like wasn't quite there yet, and how cool it is to be able to look back and be like, wow, like we truly have been guided this whole time, and like we had to pave the way before we knew what the way was. And it was incredible to feel and see that with such clarity. And like we would go on this, we did this one hike, I think like 3 times. I think we went to Bell Rock. And Bell Rock is like known as a masculine energy vortex. And just the nature of the hike and the views is it's like a great place to get perspective, literally. And we were just sitting up very close to the top, meditating and just chatting through clarity and the perspective that we had on ourselves, on the collective, on the OOOMIEs, on this movement, like so many things that just really helped to actually ground this like confidence and knowing that we've been slowly but surely building over the course of this journey. And yeah, I feel like there was just a big theme of understanding that when you are being called to this path and doing things from a soul-led place, it's really a challenge to just freaking hold the vision and believe in it, and to create like your own energy vortex around you that then once things fall into place in the 3D world in a bigger scale, you're like, oh, okay, like I get it now. I get why I was drawn in this direction. I understand looking back at all the challenges, and it just gave us a huge sense of empowerment and gratitude. Honestly, I feel like we were just tapped into our purpose in a new way last week. Like, and we both came out of it being like, okay, like we're really doing it. It's like we've already claimed it, and it was like a whole new level.
It was like another initiation of claiming that just felt so liberating. And we'll drop into more detail because you guys are probably like, what? I don't even understand what the fuck you're saying. But we'll go into detail. I'm having a realization as you're speaking about holding the vision that there's like energetics to being able to hold your vision. And when you have the evidence already in your 3D of the vision, that is the energy being distributed to not only your vessel, but like to a 3D thing. So like, for example, it's like this membership that we've created. When we were transitioning over, we had a vision of like, okay, we're going to have these different tiers. We're going to really pour our heart into a group of like spiritual entrepreneurs that want to be a part of just like this community where we all vibe off each other and teach each other and all these beautiful things. And that was just a vision that we had to hold. And I think you and I do a really good job of like having a vision and then holding it internally and knowing that it will come true. But as soon as you execute on the idea and you make it a reality, you no longer have to like hold it so much because it's distributed outward into an actual 3D thing, which is connecting to this whole conversation we've been having around like when you have an idea, it literally gets uncomfortable to not express it or to not create something because that's an energy that you're holding inside of you. So like this duality of holding the vision is like such a beautiful thing. You have to hold the vision, but you also have to act on it. So it's almost like you can imagine a bag of energy like inside of you, and they're like these pebbles that represent energy. Each pebble you take out and you're like putting it into a creation until one day your vision is literally reflected in all the pebbles that you've distributed and created. So there is an aspect of holding the vision before the pebbles are outside of you and you can see them like what they've created in this little house and this pile over here. There's a part of the journey where you have to just see it to be true from within and like acknowledge that energy from within your own being and the vision and like honoring the F out of the fact that, yeah, there may be like a process of like taking this pebble and putting it there. But at the end of the day, like you are the one creating it, whether it be out there or in here. And it's just as important in here as it is out there. And with this whole like pebble visual, the other aspect I think that we were like talking about so heavily this week when you were visiting is like the physical part of this, like the physical 3D part of this. Because even if you think about the vision carries a certain energetic frequency that needs a place to land in your body, and you have to be able to like hold that magnitude of energy. And Bella and I were just having so many realizations around like the importance of nervous system expansion work and like grounding that information into your body and like integrating it into your body. So I know this was like a really big download and realization you were having too. So I'll let you explain like what came through for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is kind of related to what we were talking about with the whole chakras thing, right?
Yeah.
And we were one of these nights we were just like up late chatting and sharing, and you asked me to just like explain my thoughts on like how the chakras work, basically, like something like that. And I was just sort of riffing on like what was coming through and my ideas around it. And I was explaining how this like energetic system and this chakra system we have within us is like this blueprint and way of understanding how both our physical and energetic beings are meant to be in balance and are meant to be in alignment. And every single center is really teaching you something about like the human experience and like what is to be found in each of those. And after I was explaining how all of them sort of like are attached to a different, like A, physical aspect, and B, spiritual, emotional, energetic, all the things, like different, almost like not archetype, but like category of the human spiritual experience. Then you were like, oh my God, I'm seeing this visual of how the sort of like top half, if you will, of the chakras are really the things that connect you towards the divine, towards the unseen. You think about like the crown and the third eye especially are where you're getting like the vision and inspiration. It's like literally that phone line to the unseen. And then the lower ones have like a lower density on purpose because it's in the root and the sacral especially, that you are really in the body and have the safety. The root is literally called like the root because it's like a tree. It connects it to the earth and it helps it feel stable, and it has to do with safety and just like being very grounded. And so we were realizing when you are spending a lot of time in the upper chakras, you need to bring that awareness and consciousness and revelations down into the body so it can actually live there and find a place to land. Or else that's when you feel those sensations of like, you know, there's so much revelation, so much newness that's stretching you, but it doesn't have anywhere to live. And that can feel like literally you're ungrounded, or you're like more anxious, or you're just trying to figure out like what to grab onto. And I'm noticing too, as I say this, like those are the moments when sometimes we lean toward the coping mechanisms that are the easiest within reach of something that just like sort of turns that chatter off and puts us into a more mindless place, which is okay at a time. But then to really get the benefit of what the new consciousness and awareness and downloads that you're getting are, is you have to actually do intentional work through the discomfort to bring it into the body. So that's where like the breath work and the grounding and dance and being in nature, putting your feet on the ground, like just all the different flavors that bring you back into your body, and literally imagining like your nervous system of having this window of tolerance of how big it can stretch like a rubber band and come back to the base without snapping. Yeah. That is what you're doing, is you're stretching, literally stretching it so that it can take more abundance, more challenge, more obstacles, more all the things, more new things in your new reality, and it feel safe and okay in your body. And that was a huge revelation because it just helped us make sense of why sometimes we were only given a piece of the vision or a piece of the puzzle, because that is how much we can handle. And this explains like quantum leaps and quantum jumps, where it's like sometimes you almost like quote unquote hack the system, where you stretch your nervous system and you visualize and you embody the being, and then the physical representation of it can literally land in you. And it's the same thing the other way around, where you can manifest a thing and get it, but it can feel so jarring to your physical body and nervous system that it's like unsustainable, or it like causes, you know, anxiety or whatever it is. But those feelings are key because they're telling you what's next. And this is the conversation we were having in the mastermind in our October call about really like embodiment and this alter ego idea, but taking it even further to say, as you go on this journey, you stretch and you face literal discomfort, and that moment is telling you exactly what is needed next and exactly where you are at on the journey and how to work the discomfort instead of like stopping and turning around, or like just, you know, basically like thinking that the discomfort means you are like, you can't do it, or like, oh fuck, I'm in my old reality again. It's like, no, your body is trying to tell you, hey, take care of me. I need some help to come along with you because your mind and your crown is fucking popping off. And I'm like trying to stay with you, but I need help. I need you to bring me with you.
Oh, yes. I'm having like so many thoughts. I have two big things I want to talk about. What you were sharing before about how we spend a lot of time up here when we're on this spiritual journey, and like the part about leaning into certain almost like coping mechanisms that can very quickly turn into unhealthy habits. This is like one of the downsides of like being a Pisces, because as a Pisces, and I'm sure literally everyone can connect to this if you're listening to this podcast, but Pisces are very up in the clouds, like very connected to the unseen, like innately. We all are, right? Like we practice this. We're all very much connected to the unseen. But I used to struggle with this. I'm not going to claim that as my now anymore, because now I'm like fully aware of this, and actually taking it on is like a very beautiful initiation into my next level of just embodiment. But it's like you get all these downloads and you have all these realizations to the point where when you're on a hike, you're like literally getting these downloads, realizing things, connecting dots, recognizing that this is connected to this in this way. But if you're just taking all of that new information in, I'm kind of reiterating what you're saying just from my own perspective, it can feel so uncomfortable in the body because it's energy, right? Like you're literally feeling that energy enter into your body. And you can think about having a download or a remembering or an awakening as you are literally taking in more data, more light, more information. Light is literally just information. Like us as light beings carry the entire history of our like creation and just like the history of the cosmos and the universe. It is all literally inside of us. And when we are awakening, we're activating more of that light within us. This is why we're called light beings, because we have all of this light within us. And when we are remembering, we're accessing more of that light. We're taking in more light from the outside. And it is so tempting when you feel that discomfort to just go and deal with the expansion, which you're not even consciously aware is happening in your body, by like numbing out with certain things like TV and scrolling on Instagram. But I think the importance of what we were really recognizing is that the two sides of this that make you such an embodied being that is spiritually connected, but also grounded into the 3D, where you're actually able to act in accordance to the realizations and downloads that you received. Because I shared this on the TikTok today, that it's one thing to like know it. It's another thing to really embody it. And it's one thing to know it and like do it kind of here and there. It's another thing to like just spend time allocated to like bringing that information into the body to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to like take a beat from learning some new things. Maybe I just need some grounding right now. And it's like you expand how much you can take in and ground as you go along this path. And you're just like expanding your nervous system. You're becoming this being that can hold so much. And the other thing I wanted to share is that I've been having all these realizations that I'm now integrating on the Peloton bike. And I've shared this before, but it just keeps making more and more sense, because the teacher that I take classes with, her name is Jess King, and she is very spiritual, and she'll like infuse the classes with spiritual teachings. And she does it in a very grounded way where she's not like repelling people that are maybe not used to like spiritual language. She says it in just a way that everyone can understand in their own way of digesting the information. But when I hear it, I'm like, oh no, she's speaking some like deep wisdom right now, and it's channeled because she's so in it. And I just took a class yesterday, and I was recognizing, and I'm pretty sure I've shared this before on this podcast, but now it's just coming through in a new way, that we were doing these intervals, and it was like a 1 minute really hard interval. And I was like, holy crap, this is insane. This is like such a hard interval. And she's like, okay, 6 more of these we're going to do. And I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? And then I literally remembered everything we talked about. This was, I think, yesterday or the day before. And I was like, okay, I'm going to test this nervous system expansion work right here in this moment with doing this hard thing. And she was literally walking us through it as we were in those intervals, where you get to a point where you're doing something that's so stretchy, and all that's happening on a physical level is that your body is reacting to what it thinks it's not capable of. That is all discomfort is. And when you recognize the power that you hold in that moment, this is where you get the download, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, you're connected to your crown, you're receiving the information. I'm this very powerful being that can do anything I put my mind to. You take that information and then all of a sudden you ground it into your body. And I would take it into my breath. And I literally was imagining me having this realization while I was in the middle of that discomfort. I can do this. I was grounding it into my body, breathing it into my body, and letting my nervous system know with a little energetic message, we are safe. We can do this. And I kept breathing into it. And then next thing you know, I like snapped into another level of what I was able to do. And then when you stop, this is the other thing. When you stop, you feel like you're going to die because you just expanded your nervous system and you're coming back down to like a regulated heart rate. And all of a sudden the mind is like, oh my God. And you're like panting for your breath. And this is another level of the expansion work, is when you are like done taking the action or doing something that you're like, damn, that was intense. You have to ground even more in that moment. So during the breaks, I would literally close my eyes and I'm like grounding with my breath. And I was recognizing that my heart rate was regulating faster and faster every single cycle that I was doing it. Yes. And I was like, holy crap, this is literally the physical key of expansion that allows you to hold more energy, where you tap into the limitless nature that you are. And I think this is why endurance runners who run fucking like 80 miles in a race or something outside in the woods love doing that, because they almost get like addicted to that sense of like tapping into their limitless nature. And you can just apply that to any other aspect of life. Like you can become limitless with what you can do in life, and not in a way where you're like hustling and achieving something. I'm just giving a physical example to paint the picture, but this is also an energetic thing of like what you're capable of attracting into your life, what you're capable of holding when it comes to the money in your bank account, the amount of clients that you have, what you're doing if you're like working a full-time job, but you also want to work on like your side gig. It's like, if you want to hold that magnitude of the vision, maybe right now there's a certain level of discomfort that is requiring you to drop into the body and expand the energy that you can hold, and to remember that you are a limitless being that can do anything you put your mind to. That's like the key to it all. If you don't know that, then of course you're going to just attach to the limiting stories. Yes.
Well, think about literally when you are expanding in something that's outside of like typical physical activity, you're still having a physical experience.
Yes.
Like the presence of a feeling of anxiety, your heart rate increasing, like that's like nerves, whatever, like that's your body having a physical reaction to what's happening in your life. And that's why it honestly is so worth reminding. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I have a feeling it's going to make so many things click for people. And honestly, for me, of like why the nervous system and the exercise, all these things that are like duh when you say them out loud, but we have to remember how important they are. And this is why like the top performing like CEOs and millionaires and whatever, anyone who's at the top of whatever, not even top, just like people who are freaking high performers, whatever you want to call it, they're doing like breath work and meditation, and they're working out and they're eating right and all this stuff because they know that it has to do with their physical body. Like if you want to be, we know this, if you want to be showing up on a client call with someone and holding space for them and for you as you're like pushing the limits of your knowledge base and how you coach and all these things, or you're showing up to your job and you want to crush the meeting, like it is also a physical thing.
Yes.
Like you can know all the things up here, but if it's not existing down here and your physical body can't hold it, that is what brings up the discomfort and all the things. And it's also making me think too, why it's so important to have that degree of like emotional intelligence understanding that is like learning to not, interpret these sometimes like emotional experiences the wrong way, and to know that they're like windows into the expansion as well. And it can tell you then of like, oh, okay, well, I'm having this emotional pattern. It's actually related to a belief I have, an identity, or this is just that my body's uncomfortable and I just need to like help my body get through it. And it's such a key part of it. And I feel like that was a huge thing we're talking about and realizing is like, this is why as we create our alter ego identity, we putting things on there that are like, this type of morning routine with this activity because it helps my body stretch and it helps me feel good and empowered. And then that is the container that all the things I'm creating and experiencing come to land on. Like you can put more pebbles into the bucket because you literally made the bucket stronger and bigger. And I think we forget to take care of the vessel, especially because it can feel so good to be riding the high of the vision and the clarity and the revelation, the idea. And we're like, yeah. And then we're like, okay. Hold on a second. Like bring it here because then you'll actually get to experience more of it. And I think this is too, like something that I've realized is how important, this expansion includes not just the things that you'd associate with like physical and nervous system, but the emotional side too, because that's where you can have like a huge action bias to continue taking action, but you want to address the, repeating emotions or patterns or whatever that sometimes we are honestly capable of like overriding through action because we're so capable and incredible as beings that we can expand that then that is the work as well that will expand what you can handle and hold is those pieces too. Like it's all related to it. And I think it's just about finding your flavor of what your vessel and soul needs at this moment to be able to hold more.
Well, even think about what we were doing in the mastermind with the alter ego practice. I'm actually recognizing now the power of that connecting to the lower 3 chakras, because an identity is formed in, I'm pretty sure it's the solar plexus is where the ego starts to form. So if you can think about the chakras going from the root to your sacral to your solar plexus, and going up, they are formed in order of like your age. So the root is formed when you're in the womb, and then it starts to progress as you are a baby and then you grow older. And so the solar plexus, the third one, is when you start to form your sense of self, your ego self. Yes. So that is why the solar plexus is connected to like individual power and I'm pretty sure it's, emotions, anger, aggression, self-esteem. Yes. So when you think about it, when we're doing that practice that we did in the mastermind, where we're literally connecting to the ego that is one that's going to support us with our like mission and taking the actions that are aligned with our highest timeline, we're going into that chakra system and we are helping it create flow around who we actually want to identify as and the power that we hold. Because another thing is when you're doing something that's stretchy or difficult, if you're then bringing that energy into your body and your sacral is telling you, you can't do this because you have a sense of self that isn't powerful and limitless, then it's going to like stop there and you're not going to be able to like bring it down to the root. So another aspect of this is like developing and practicing that really strong sense of self. And when you have the download of like, wow, we're all one, and wow, I'm creating my reality through my thoughts, and wow, I'm such a powerful being. It's like bringing that information down to the root, yes, to be safe, down to the sacral for like your creativity and your sexuality and like who you are as a creator being, to understand that you can flow with the universe and create and be like, yes, I'm a creator being. I'm going to create this and this. But then also in the sacral, that's when it's like, no, you're a powerful being that has full grasp. And I don't know if I like using the word control, but you are the one creating your reality. And it's so beautiful to think about that because it's so crazy. Like we're intuitively picking these themes for the mastermind of what we're focusing on with these beautiful spiritual entrepreneurs. But it just so happens that every single thing is tied together and it's all this beautiful plan. Like I feel like you came to Sedona and we didn't know what was going to happen in that week. And we both said it like, let's just chill and see what comes through us. And I literally feel like there is a guide or someone here that's helping us with this OOM creation that was like, okay, now this is what you're going to focus on. Like focus on the grounding, focus on like the identity. And then it's so crazy because in November, our theme is like taking the action. And now we have all of this like information to help us with that. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah. It's so cool. And as you're explaining the different chakras, like this is the other element of why human design starts to get so fascinating, because then when you look at your body graph, you have this whole even more custom literal map to your energetic body and how your energy centers are working and what they're connected to and what energy and center is going to have almost like more importance for you to focus on. And then it becomes this like literal GPS guide to how to feel in alignment. And you'll see like, okay, you have a defined emotional solar plexus. Like this is a huge place of energy for you.
Ooh.
And that's why like these things unfold in your life, because then they teach you how to do X, Y, Z. If you have a defined throat and there's all this energy pouring into the throat center, you're like, okay, there's going to be things from here for me to explore. And it like gives you a custom idea of how to create that balance. And it's fascinating. I love that we just like were brought to this revelation about the chakras, because it's like we know these and they sort of like, you're like, yeah, okay, it makes sense. But now we're like, oh my God, we're seeing this, because I think exactly of the theme of this whole episode and sort of our whole last week was like how to really become the beings and like really understand what we're here to do. How do we marry the mystical with the physical and like both sides of the coin? And we're seeing the way that they are coming together. And it's just so cool, because it just really shows you like there is this almost like plan laid out for us that we don't have to worry about, because then the exact challenges that you're facing are going to show you exactly what you need to work on.
Right.
Like we find that both from like a soul lesson perspective, from a human design perspective. It's like you realize that these things are working to make you a master of your reality. And it's not at all happening to you. It's literally for you. Because then the universe is like, hey, you're going to feel uncomfortable when you do this thing or when this is happening or when you expand, because I want you to focus on here. Like squeaky wheel gets the grease type of thing. Like it's supposed to fucking squeak and call your attention to address it.
Yeah. I've never heard that saying, by the way. That's fun.
Really?
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah. It's like also a saying related to like speaking up for what you want is like squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like
Make noise.
You don't say anything, like no one will know that you need something. So like make a noise about it and then someone will help you.
I love that. Yeah. Wow. Oh, isn't it crazy that we just like tapped into all this information and it's just like coming through in a way where we just understand it? Like I never really went into understanding the chakras in a way that I would be like, okay, like I understand this and this. It was kind of just a concept. But the information finds you when you're ready to have it land in the body, when you can actually hold that data and that light and it can click. Because even just having the realizations and the downloads, there's like a level before that of like just reading the information and it kind of goes right over your head. And then there's like the next level of listening to it or reading it somewhere, or even just like realizing it on your own where you can feel the truth of it. And for me, this information really starts to hit in a new way when I can visualize it in like an energetic way, where it's not just like a spiritual woo-woo concept of like, you have these energy centers and this is representing your self-worth, and focus on this area if you have low self-worth. It's like, no, imagine us in a freaking video game, and these energy centers are where we interact with the field and we take in certain information that corresponds to our video game experience. So like picture a little spiral of energy down at the bottom of your spine where your root is. And this is where you're literally digesting data and information that makes you feel one with the illusion of reality. Because that's the thing. It's like, yes, this is 3D, and yes, we're able to like touch it and feel it. And it's like real in a sense that it's here in front of us. But also, it's like not.
Yeah, it's like, I know what you're getting at. The point is that it's like each chakra is connecting you with an element of reality in the way that we experience it. And so in the root and in the sacral is very tied to the experience of reality that is quote unquote 3D, that energy is it's like the funny thing about when you become so like, I don't know, you're just like reading the things, understanding, and you're like, what did nothing is real. But okay, Like it is real. It's just like we're understanding it for what it really is. So the energy center of the root is connecting you to the fact that like there is something to interact with in that realm.
Right.
And it makes sense of why you could have people who like go through an awakening and you talk to them and you're like, they're not on earth anymore. And maybe that's their path, but like, then that's why it's like the grounding is, I would argue, necessary, because it makes you really fully like present and aligned with all that this entire like earth installation has to offer.
Yes.
And it's both. It's the unseen, the crown, the third eye, the visuals, the freaking ether. And then it's also the play of creation, which is this physical 3D world with time and space and desks and computers and all this stuff.
Right. I also have been learning how you'll have issues with like gurus becoming immoral because they are so up here and they're like sending out this like wisdom, but then they're not grounded into the 3D. So what we deem as like a moral thing or immoral thing in the 3D, it like goes straight over their head. And like you'll run into people who are like gurus that are like channeling this wisdom and they're all up here, but they're so not in the 3D that they're not acting morally. And I heard that, I'm like, whoa, that makes so much sense, because they're not feeling safe, one, and they're not grounded in the 3D, and they're not like stabilizing the information in a way where they're playing with it in the 3D. It's like they're in one world up here and then one world down here, and like their connection to the 3D isn't actually like tangible.
Right. And it's like not relatable.
Yes, exactly. Like it's not like,
and
yeah,
it's making me think of why I've always loved, at least to what I've been exposed to, like he's not a perfect being, obviously, but with the Dalai Lama, I've always been so impressed by like how still like grounded he is. And it makes sense because, you know, maybe because part of like the, you know, in like Eastern culture and philosophy, like there's so much emphasis on like the chakra system and all this stuff that we understand, and just like those energies of marrying like heaven with earth and whatever. But like he's so rooted in reality, and you can actually relate to him, and he can actually get his message across to people because he's still operating in this realm. And it's interesting to think about it that way, where it's literally like there's so much energy up here that you like, I guess, forget a key piece of this reality, that then you are almost too far removed from it.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. You're like too far removed from it. And it is interesting to think about, back to like the video game analogy of like picture an avatar in a video game, and they have these like energy portals that like go up their body, and the bottom portal is the one that is like a cord that connects them to the actual surroundings of the game. And then the second one is what connects them to the energy that makes them like create and like play with the game, and the like putting the boxes together. And that's where your creative energy is. It's your sexual energy. And you can think about why those are tied together, because your sexual energy is innately creative, because you're literally creating a being, but you're also creating reality. And this is why people with like sexual trauma, or people that have like a blocked sacral through just like, it can even be like shame or like sexual shame, it's like that energy feels blocked. So like moving your hips is like a really powerful way to get that energy flowing. Dance, a really powerful way to get that energy flowing. Just creating and like sending out that energy onto a piece of paper or like a paintbrush is an amazing way to get that energy flowing. And then it's like, as you go up, it's like the sense of I is in the solar plexus. And that's where the avatar starts to like figure out, oh, I am my own being and I'm in this 3D reality. And that is such an interesting one, because we don't want that to be like overpowered to the point where we totally lose touch with the other centers of like our third eye, of being able to, almost like the third eye is your ability to see that you're multidimensional and not just living in this one reality. Like you can exist in other realities. And that's why it's called like your third eye is connected to like your imagination, because you're able to see like you're a multidimensional being. And then your crown is like connected to freaking source. And that's where you're like channeling in all the data and the information.
Yeah.
And then what's the ones that are in between? It's the heart
and throat.
Yeah. So you have root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown.
Crown. Yep.
Yeah. So,
And in,
yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, in then the human design system, there's 2 additional energy centers that we work with, which is the G center, which is all about like identity and direction, and then the spleen, which is like an instinct, intuition. But it's like, those aren't chakras, obviously. They're just like an additional energy center that helps us understand like our energetic, our essence and our self and our energetic blueprint.
Well, there actually are a lot more chakra systems, but these are just the main ones. And people even talk about the 5 others that extend past our physical body and go into our field. But I'm pretty sure there are also more chakras that are just dispersed through the body. So maybe human design may actually just be taking those and like honing in on them.
Right. Yeah, I think so, because it's like they're still associated with a physical, like a organ, if you will, and like a place of the body where there is an energy.
Yeah.
So it's still is a full on like energy center.
That's the other thing we were talking about too with the organs. Each chakra is connected to a specific organ that obviously is an energy center in your body where it's responsible for shifting energy and transmuting energy in a specific way. And those organs have nerve endings that interact with a specific frequency of energy. So the nerve endings that are in the root chakra are responsible for taking in the denser energies, which is the 3D, the physical. And as you get higher, there's like different frequential states that are interacting with the nerve endings. Like if you think about the heart, that's like a really high frequency. But then as soon as you get to the throat, it's like you're interacting with the frequency of sound. And then like your freaking third eye is the frequency of like the other visions and the other realities. And this is like the frequency of truth and source and downloads and all of that. It's wild.
It really starts to make freaking sense as you build up all this knowledge and like field of understanding. And it's obvious to me. And I'm just like, then it makes sense of why when people are so disconnected from this stuff that they are just out of freaking whack and like almost don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as you connect it to like an organ and a part of the physical body, and then it's like the sound frequency that you play on YouTube is going to tap into that chakra, and it's like
it all makes
it's
sense.
like all coming together. And and it's like this type of action and this type of emotion and thing is like alluding you to here, and this obstacle is a reflection of this freaking alignment or misalignment. And it's like a whole like back, it's just becomes one again of like how we integrate. And the word like balance is really meaning more to me now, because I feel like balance people often associate with just a binary of like balancing this and this thing, but it's like, no, it's like a whole vessel of like alignment and balance and feeling like good and whole and everything just being squared away.
I also do think that there are some souls that come here for specific reasons. And if you think about like the gurus that are like just channeling wisdom, and some souls come here with a plan of like not actually interacting with the 3D at all. Like think about the monks that like sit in the caves for their whole freaking life. They clearly came here to expand their soul in a certain direction where they're not actually needing to interact with the 3D. But our souls came here to play with the 3D and in a way that is individual to us, that feels good to us, where there's balance.
Yeah.
And I think this is why so many people resonate with our message, because we definitely are still playing in the 3D in a way that we're not just like meditating for 27 hours a week and like only focusing on the spiritual enlightenment. We definitely do a good job of just like playing and like channeling our childlike energy into life. And that really came through in our week together in Sedona. Like we were just so playful and like freaking laughing the entire time. And that's just another reminder that you came here with a mission, of course, where actually you need to freaking balance the lower with the higher chakras in order to complete the mission. But you also came here to just like play in the 3D and like to have fun with it.
Right.
And to just like
Yes,
move
totally.
about life in a way that feels good to your heart and soul, even if there's no agenda of like producing something or like achieving a mission, because you moving through the 3D in a way that lights up your soul is actually a part of the mission.
Yes, totally.
Play.
Yes.
Okay, so let's close out this beautiful conversation by just sharing some like things that we are personally leaning into to help us bring that energy into like the lower 3 chakras and to balance ourselves and to ground and to feel safe. I'll share just from my own journey. After you left, I've been really prioritizing meditations that are more focused on creating safety in the body and grounding. So all I've been doing is going on Google and searching root chakra meditations, and I'll put on like a 10-15 minute root chakra meditation where it's such a peaceful experience of like imagining your root and like the red energy around your root. And it's very affirmation based of like repeating mantras around safety and like feeling the freaking seat under your butt and just grounding yourself and creating that really strong grounding energetic cord. That's another thing you can imagine, like any practice that allows you to strengthen the cord. And I'm imagining it becoming more opaque in a way, like where that cord becomes more vibrant and potent.
Yes.
And
yes.
movement is another really big thing, because when you are moving, it's more about the intention of the movement. If you are in the head and you're just thinking about like, I need to punish myself with this movement and I just have to check this off my list, it's not really going to do anything. But movement that is intentional, this is why slow movement is really helpful, because it's kind of hard not to be in your body when you're moving slow. The more you can be in your body, and when I say in your body, I'm imagining like when I'm on the Peloton, I'm like feeling my breath like go into my body. I'm feeling the discomfort as I'm like expanding and like expanding my nervous system and like the amount of breath that I can hold, and really kind of like pushing myself to breathe in through my nose when it's more tempting to just do mouth breathing. And I've been doing breath work with the Open app. I love doing this one called Dare to Expand. It's a 15-minute breath work where you are doing inhales and exhales with breath retentions and releases. And I find that every time I'm consistent with doing that, I expand my nervous system in really beautiful ways. And if you guys want to test out Open, we'll leave the code. We have a 30-day free trial code, which I'm pretty sure is it just OOM?
I think so, yeah.
It's either OOM or OOMIEs. We'll leave it in the show notes below. Breath work, the meditations, movement where you're in your body. That's definitely what I've been focusing on. Oh, and also like sitting outside and just like I went on a hike last night, a sunset hike, and I just like sat on the hill on the red rock and was just like putting my hands on the rock and like feeling the energy connect in from my hands to my body. And I find that that's super grounding as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. Those are amazing. Yeah. I would just add, I mean, definitely with movement, like dance has been so powerful for me, especially with how I described dance. I think in the last episode, the one with the like making your biz more magic and woo woo, I think I was talking about like what it really means to like be in your body and dance. That has always been really helpful for me. And also the fact that like it can be like a legit, like cardio physical workout. And then I feel like certain types of mental challenge, so like basically like stretchy learning in a way that gives you this very like satisfactory mini win where you're like feeling the sometimes physical or mental idea of like, oh, I'm not getting this, or this is hard to understand, and then you just like push a little. It's like just whatever. I'm realizing this through the Serbian lessons I've been taking, that I get nervous and it's hard and I have to like focus and think this and be like, okay, I understand this, and ask questions, whatever. And it's like a mental challenge, like of problem solving and learning, that then I find gives me so much like satisfaction in just like the resilience of like sticking through that process. So I don't know, it can be, this was something else I received in when we both did a meditation at the top of Bell Rock, and we were like, or I like was receiving 3 categories of things to lean into in my next chapter. And one thing that came through was like consistent, like, I forget what it was worded as. It was like mental challenge or something that was like learn and like stick to something and figure it out and like have the satisfaction of like going through the thing. And that can be as easy, honestly, as like, I don't know, if you don't like math, like do some math problems or learn a language or I don't know. It could be anything. Like I could see myself starting to do like fucking math or something just to like, because there's something with that where you have to actually physically be so present and like get your energy to focus on one thing.
Yes.
And I think it is like, it contributes to the nervous system and like the grounding. Yeah. And then like breath work again is like incredible. Like either the style that they do on open or doing like pranayama practices with like the long holds. And yeah, things too that like sometimes depending on where you're at, doing like down regulating practice versus up regulating. So things that are bringing your heart rate lower and putting you into parasympathetic, or things that are increasing your heart rate and bringing you into sympathetic. That is like a controlled, safe space for you to play with discomfort. And that's why it has such a good impact on your nervous system. But yeah, you definitely want to like do some either research or consult someone or whatever in terms of like what is the right thing for you. Cause sometimes it's better to focus on creating safety through parasympathetic. And then when you feel a little bit better, you can like stretch and have the discomfort going on.
Yeah. I'll actually share the meditations that I've been doing on YouTube because a lot of them start with the down regulating parasympathetic, slow breathing, being in the body.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to share one more last thing that I meant to add in before. When I was on the bike, another thing that Jess King was saying, she was like, whenever you feel that doubt, that just is an opportunity for you to connect in with source. And I was realizing when you're on that, like when you're in that moment of discomfort, all you're doing is practicing connecting with source, essentially the powers and the energies that let you expand past what you think you're capable of. And she always like points into the body. She's like, it's in here. It's in here. Because so often we're thinking that something outside of us is going to like come in and like expand us. But when you turn your attention inward, when you're in that like difficult, challenging moment, you can feel your consciousness and like your energy. And that is literally you connecting to the limitless nature that you are. And you just naturally start to expand into actions that are beyond what your mind thinks you're capable of. So I just wanted to add that in here. That was something that was coming through before that I forgot. But this was a beautiful episode. We knew something was going to come through us.
Yeah. Completely, girl.
Guys, if you go, I need to know who is watching these TikTok videos of these two friends that talk in freaking gibberish to each other. And it's the most hilarious thing.
It's so funny. Nikki showed me this TikTok and I was like, what is going on? And it just became like one of those things that's hilarious to, I don't even know how to describe it. They're like literally saying, they just use the most bizarre formation of sentences and then they have like this little accent going on. I think one of them is actually like a non-native English speaker or something like that, because I don't know if he's making it up, but
no, I think
they're
just American.
They're just using a silly accent. Yeah. Okay, I don't know.
Or maybe you're right. I'm pretty sure they're just American.
Yeah. It's hilarious. Anyway, we've been going completely girl to each other.
Oh God.
So yeah. Okay. Well, love you guys so much. If you loved what you heard, make sure to subscribe or like wherever you're watching or listening. And a lot of these topics and things are what we go through together in our membership, which you can check out, is linked in our description. If you want that space to really grow along other side spiritual entrepreneurs, that's what the Quantum Creator Mastermind is for. We would love to have you in there. So yeah, we love you so much. Let us know if you have any questions, thoughts, send us a message, and we'll see you next time.
Yes. Love you guys. See you next week. Bye.